hookah bars on.
Yeah.
It says it's recording, so
There's
that's a good
a lot of that.
sign.
A lot of chai stands. They do these chai in these little clay pots, and you're supposed to throw them at the ground when you're done. Okay. Really good. Good coffee too.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Snellings,
Present.
Ferris,
Here.
Behrens,
Here.
Keating,
Present.
Bikeman,
Present.
Thrum,
Here.
Schrader,
Here.
Guaraki,
Present.
8-0.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
And it is live.
Good.
First up, we have the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, January 22nd.
Move to approve minutes, regular meeting, January 2nd, 2024 is written.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, we have the approval of minutes for the special meeting, January 29th.
Move to approve the minutes, special meetings, January 29th, 2024 is written.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
8-0.
Okay, thank you. First up, we have public comments. Is anyone here to give public comments that isn't on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. First, we have the Chamber Main Street report. Wayne Cruzy.
Good evening, everyone. Wayne Cruzy here, wearing my Chamber Main Street hat and the Convention and Tourism hat. As we've been working on the historic district in downtown Marysville, we're excited to see you talking about apartments, housing in downtown Marysville as well. So that's urged us to make some phone calls to some other Main Street communities to find out, what's going on in your city. And so as I've been talking to some Main Street directors, there are some themes that keep coming up that I tried to highlight in my letter. But they all say there's no better way to preserve a building than to keep it fully occupied and to keep money in the pockets of the building's owner. Now, in my report, I mentioned they talked about that study they did about the economic impact of an apartment on the downtown business community. And they talked about that example from Mason City, Iowa. Population 27,000, so obviously bigger than Marysville, but comparable. And they noted that the annual economic impact was a little over $17,000. When you break that down, they're basing that on monthly rent of $600, food, whether that's at home or going out to eat, $467, household items, $148, personal care products and services, $40, and entertainment, $199. As someone who lives in downtown Marysville, I can address these personally. On Saturday morning, when I was out of toiletries, it was much easier to run across the street to RX to buy those items that I need. I maybe shouldn't admit this in an open meeting, but living less than a block from Sarge's Sports Bar, many nights I get texts from friends saying, "Hey, we're down here at Sarge's. Why don't you come and join us for a drink?" And when I call the wagon wheel, they don't say wagon wheel. They say, "Hey, Wayne, is it your usual Cobb salad, extra blue cheese dressing, no bread?" And that is true. Because you find yourself, since you're right there, it's easy just to walk down the street to support these local businesses. And along the way, that's how you develop those relationships as well. I feel that for those of us who live in downtown Marysville specifically, or in these other communities that I've talked to, they talk about the safety. That as you're walking up and down the street, you're also watching out for what's going on at the wagon wheel. We're living right next to Sunflower Medical Clinic. Crystal and I talk pretty regularly about things that she sees or things that I see. So you have an extra set of eyes doing that, and along the way, building those relationships. When I was still working at the Advocate, I remember my colleagues were talking about how much money they were spending on fuel. And I was like, I spend $20 a month on fuel because I was living and working at the same place, and others have said the same thing. For those of you who are living downtown where you're just running across the street, you're not spending so much money on fuel, and then you have more money for disposable income. So they also talked about how retail follows rooftops, was a phrase that a couple of people used. Retail follows rooftops. And they talked about, these Main Street directors talked about how when the residents are there renting and then spending money, it starts to make your downtown community more vibrant. When I was talking to Casey Woods at Emporia, I was just intrigued by his comments about how downtown Emporia changed in the past 14, 15 months since they opened up that whole new Baldwin building. Then I called the director in Woodbine, Iowa, population 1,600, so Woodbine's just north of Omaha. The Woodbine Main Street was formed in 2008, and from the very get-go, their whole point was, what are we going to do to open up housing in our downtown district? So their downtown district is 9 blocks long. And so they worked on that, and over these past couple of years, they've shown some remarkable results. And she said, when you look at who is living in downtown, which is something I certainly hear as I'm walking up and downtown. She said, well, the people who rent from us are new teachers, they're retired farmers, they're people who work in the labs. She said, we have not had any issues finding people to rent from us. And the Woodbine director said that they found that when they were working on downtown housing, it also spurred housing across the rest of their town. And she said, one of the great things is that when you go to Iowa, they always say, well, if Woodbine can do it, we can do it. And she said it's because Woodbine just opened their doors. Their Main Street, their city council worked together to make sure, hey, come to Woodbine. We're going to show you what we've done. We're going to walk side by side. And I thought, how cool would that be for people to say, if Marysville can do it, we can do it. Again, drawing positive attention to our town. We're making some trips coming up if you'd like to join us. On March 1st, which is a Friday, we're going to Lincoln County in Great Bend. We had hoped to do that a couple weeks ago, but that was in the midst of all that crappy weather. So March 1st, Lincoln County and Great Bend. March 7th, we're heading to Emporia to talk to Casey Woods and get a tour of these buildings. And then as I was talking to that Woodbine director, that's less than 3 hours away, so I'm going to head up to Woodbine at some point if someone wants to come along. And then on the Convention and Tourism side of the office, you'll notice I included the dates of our major festivals coming up. As all committees are working, we're talking about what can we do to increase our overnight stays. So for example, as the Gravel Dash committee's working, they were like, I think we need to focus more of our attention on Friday. Because once people are done riding on Saturday, they're ready to go home. So what can we do on Friday to get people to come in on Friday and spend the night? So they're talking about adding clinics from some of our major partners to draw people in to learn. Well, I'm not a bike rider, so I don't necessarily know what the clinics are, but I'm trusting those planners. I couldn't even come up with a way to finish that sentence. Todd could probably fill something in, right, Todd? So we'll trust them. And the same with Big Blue River Days. We're looking at what types of entertainment are going on Friday and Saturday nights to encourage people to spend the night with us. At the next meeting, we'll come back and talk to you about Skyfest Marysville, scheduled for July 13th. Notice a change in our typical plan. And that will be a Saturday/Sunday morning event. Last year, you'll remember we kind of got beat up because no one knew that the balloons were going to fly. And so we're building a whole event around that, where the balloons will fly. We'll probably have some kind of airplanes flying in. We'll serve breakfast so that people have a reason to be here Saturday, spend the night, and then spend Sunday morning with us as well. Hoot Man from Manco was in town last week. He's the guy who has helped us with our Christmas lights. And so we talked about an artificial Christmas tree for Pony Park. He's also putting together plans of lights that we might want to add to the Kester House block where Santa's house is located. And we've also asked him to put together what would Christmas displays look like in Marysville City Park, just to give us some ideas of things we might want to include. Plus, I've been talking to Brian from Apple One, the company that's worked with our signs, to talk about what might the next phase of our sign project look like. So we'll be coming to the Convention and Tourism Committee as we look at numbers. We might be coming with some recommendations to you. I'm hoping the annual banquet is on your calendar for February 24th. I know some of you have already reserved your tickets. A lot of people are coming to celebrate Marysville. Certainly some of our dignitaries will be in town. Bridget Jobe, Executive Director for Kansas Tourism, will be in town. Senator Bowers will be here. Representative Mosier will be here. Representatives from Kansas Works and also from the Kansas Department of Commerce will be here too. So I hope you'll join us. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne. Before we move on to business and discussion items, I would like the council's permission to add a couple of appointments to the agenda. Not at this point. I'd ask to put them down under number 9 on the agenda, but I don't know. One of these appointments would be for city judge, and the other would be for city attorney. I don't know if I need a formal motion to add those to the agenda.
Move to add, mayor to add city judge and
City attorney.
city attorney to the appointments of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, under business and discussion items, first we have the approval of stormwater management plan for Landall Shop 100. Mr. Ralph put together the information in your packet, pages 7 through 19. I think there's not action requested at this time. It's more,
You must approve it.
we do have to
The
approve it.
council approves it. That's the only thing the council approves with the building plans. You have to do the stormwater.
That's right.
You have to approve the stormwater.
Is that contingent on the planning commission approving?
I wondered.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Council
not.
has to approve this. This is the overall stormwater management plan. And then, the planning and zoning is already agreed, but stormwater, when they added that to our code book, was added later, and it has council approval. If you look at, your code book.
It's been vetted by the planning.
Yes, they
Has gone
agreed
through
already.
them.
They've already gone through them, but you guys have to
Okay.
approve it because the water might be, stormwater might be used by somebody else who would build out there. I mean, that's kind of the idea why.
Did the planning and zoning commission have any edits or anything they want to make, or this entire,
It
this?
passed.
entire
They did
have
is
some,
approved?
yeah, they did have a couple of, there were several questions asked, and I'm not sure what the adjustments made were, but they bit into it pretty good. They have a stormwater engineer on the planning commission, so it's very beneficial when it comes to these matters.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve stormwater management plan for Landell Shop 100.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
All right, management plan is approved. All right, next item on the business and discussion items, we have the proposal for an alley cost share improvement project behind Blue River Eye Care.
I'm passing around an aerial of this that actually is a little more associated with a related issue, which is the request by the eye care to add a service line into storm sewer that I originally was preparing for the council agenda until I was advised that that's something that is approved at the administrative level, so that isn't required to come before council, but this map nonetheless shows you a little bit of what's going on with respect to that. If you look at the 3 shaded boxes up here, that is the area that Dr. Kurt proposes to replace the existing alley surface with concrete. He is going to bring in the electric service that's across the alley overhead underground, so they'll have to trench for that. And he intends to do the same for the 8-inch stormwater connection. Under city code, he's only required basically to repair that to the standard that it existed prior, which basically means filling in the trench. So what he wants to do is a significant enhancement from that, actually rebuild a portion of the alley for the purpose of both providing a smoother surface for travel, but improving the drainage across it. And why that makes sense, in addition to just the benefit for his business, is that there is an existing concrete, fairly new concrete approach into that alley from the west, so this will effectively serve as an extension of that prior improvement. So as far as the city's interest in this, the responsibility, the alleys are public, and the city bears the responsibility for any future maintenance or replacement that it might wish to do. So anything beyond the simple repair or patching that is obligated on the part of the business to repair the trench would be the city. So with this proposal, in my opinion, comes the opportunity for the city to cost share in a very small improvement of existing public infrastructure, but yet one that is in an area that is highly traveled and adjoins a public parking lot. So I think that just adds to the opportunity, and I think if anybody has concerns about precedent or something like that, I think this is a unique enough situation that I don't think the city is really in danger of falling prey to claims of past precedent. If a good opportunity like this comes again in the future, I would hope that you would strongly consider it. You do have a program for cost share on sidewalks, and while that's not the same thing, cost share is a good thing these days. When you think about all the alley surfaces that are out there, in fact, all the sidewalks out there, and the condition of a lot of them, any improvement is a good thing. So my recommendation is to accept the proposal to enter into a 50-50 cost share for the improvement of the alley.
I would add too that as you can see in these pictures, water does want to pool there, and that's in an area where it's shaded this time of the year, so it doesn't melt as fast. A concrete alley would be a good long-term investment.
And this is just for the alleyway surface, not any of the electrical and...
No, it's just the surface itself.
Okay.
It's just under 90 feet, I think 87. I did a rough measurement of it. There was some speculation on some parts last week that, I mentioned this just for general information, that stormwater connection and connection from the property to our existing inlet over in the parking lot may be utilized by other property owners, and we had to run that down because Kent had concerns that if it were to be, that perhaps it needed to be bigger than 8 inches. But did manage to talk to the eye doctor today, and he said that he had no plans to do that, so the 8-inch pipe should be sufficient. The city, I don't know if we've done that before. If it's happened, it hasn't happened very often, but it would be my intention for the city, and I mentioned this to the doctor, to enter into some sort of a very, very simple agreement or letter of understanding that ownership of that line and responsibility for maintenance resides with the property owner perpetually.
Yeah.
Guess,
I was going to say we have precedent for doing MOUs like that.
my only thought is why would we not do it?
Right, yeah.
Exactly. So,
That alley is
It only makes
awful.
sense.
I will vouch for that alley is awful.
It's a busy alley too.
It is.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And the getting the electrical service underground, and that's also beneficial for the amount of trucks and that also transit that alley, which is another good reason for concrete.
And all the water
So
going under would be fantastic.
so would this, from the street, Would this take care of all of the deficient surface from the street to the west?
From the street to the west, yeah.
Okay.
Just this end is still gonna be,
Street to the parking lot.
but this,
This,
kind of behind like.
the alley to the
Handicap.
west to the street, I know what you meant, yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna,
Yeah.
if we're gonna cost share on a portion of this, is there anything else that we need to do on this alley to make sure that we don't have to worry about it for?
No, because again, the entrance from the west is fairly new, so this will bring that up to that standard. Granted, it's gonna end at some point, but the city's not been approached, nor have we approached any property owners east of the point
Okay,
at which this will end.
okay.
It would be nice if it could, but it just, not knowing what the council's position on this would be, we didn't initiate any discussion with any property owners further east down the alley.
Okay.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to enter into an MOU with Blue River Eye Care for the cost share project on the alley. Any further discussion?
For 11,100.
Yeah, $11,100
For $11,100.
from sales tax.
Yeah.
Comes from Public Works sales tax, yes.
That's right. All right, is there any other further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, next we have Chief.
Good evening. Hope you guys are all doing well. I have a couple visitors here with me. I wanted to take a minute and introduce Joshua Kenworthy. Josh is our newest officer. Joined the PD here at the beginning of February. Came to us from the last 10 years with the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. He's going through night shift field training with Lieutenant Salceso just to learn all the city ordinances, things that we may do different here in the police department, but just wanted to come by and put a name to a face and introduce him to the council. So, say hello. With me, I have Fernando Salcedo. One of the things that we do is we send our folks off to training. And when we ask them to come back to training, we say, what did you learn? What did you study? Et cetera, et cetera. Fernando attended the Northwestern School of Police Staff and Command. It was a 22-week course that was all virtual. And in that 22 weeks, he had to do a staff study of a problem that we were facing here in the city of Marysville or in this region. His staff study was on officer wellness, which brings up the point of why we are here this evening. So I may tap him in. Also at the end, if you have some questions from an officer standpoint or a supervisor standpoint, I wanted somebody to be here to answer those questions for you. Ultimately, we are here tonight to present Policy 219, an amendment to Policy 219. It was first approved on January 1st, 2021, and that would be 219.1 through 219.5. Or I'm sorry, yeah, 219.5. We're asking for your approval tonight for 219.6 through 219.8. I know you all have families and want to get home, so I'll be brief. The reason we're asking for this amendment is based upon statistics. We're not coming here and just saying, hey, this is something we'd like to do. As part of our staff study, we've looked at this and said, what are we doing really well and what do we need to improve on? The Department of Social and Preventative Medicine at the University of Buffalo in 2016 conducted a study that showed the average life expectancy of a police officer is 21.9 years less than the average citizen. 21.9 years less just by being a police officer. That life expectancy of a police officer is 57 compared to the United States citizen, which is 79 right now. They attributed that to 4 facts. 1 was stress, 2 was shift work, 3 was obesity, and 4 was a hazardous work environment. I cannot work miracles and alleviate shift work, nor can I alleviate a hazardous work environment. Those come with the profession. What I do think we can do is try to work to eliminate stress and obesity. When we talk about stress, a 2015 study by the Journal of Traumatic Stress estimated that the average person experiences 3 to 4 traumatic events in their lifetime. That would be the death of a close relative, a violent accident, traumatized by violent crime, things of that. The average police officer averages 188 traumatic events in their lifetime. That's a 46-to-1 ratio. and that's one of the leading causes of why that stress is so prevalent. Studies have also shown that officers are 25 times more likely to die from a cardiovascular event, being a heart attack or a stroke, resulting from stress, than to be killed by violent crime. When these guys come in, guys and gals, we issue them a ballistic vest, a firearm, a taser, every piece of training, every training class that we can come up with. We do absolutely nothing for their heart. I hate to admit that. It hasn't been a priority for me just because I haven't thought of it. And I'm so thankful that they brought this up to us. The average age of U.S. police officers experiencing a heart attack is 46. I am 42, coming up on 43, and it scares me to death. The average age of a citizen that is a non-law enforcement officer is 65. So the stresses of policing and shift work makes heart attacks more prevalent 19 years younger in age. This really stuck with me, and it's my last point to share with you. A prominent attorney at a training class that we were in recently said, if you expect people to give themselves to a career that will kill them 21.9 years before everyone else, make that career worthwhile. I think this policy is a step to making that career worthwhile. We have to take care of these guys and gals' hearts. We have the best team here within the city, these guys and gals that are here and not here. I would put them up against any police department nationwide. I'm proud to represent them. I hope you are as well. And so I think that we can do better. And with that, I'm asking for your approval of the updates to policy 219, which would allow some general on-duty exercise, not to exceed 3 hours per week. Only when another officer or supervisor is on duty, so that we're not minimizing efficiency. On equipment that focuses on cardiovascular health or light strength training, and only after a medical release has been obtained by a medical doctor or other medical practitioner. Be happy to answer any questions if I had. We did present this to the Police and Fire Committee first and received positive support, and then with the support of Mr. Peterson as well. We wanted to present it to the full council tonight for your consideration. I left you speechless.
I move to approve the amendment.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion on the matter? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Chief. Thanks, Officer. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the approval of the request for proposal for development of the Kester commercial buildings. Jeff has put together, I'd say, a pretty thorough RFP. I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of look through that and have any thoughts, comments, questions. Anything you think needs hewed a little more on it?
I'll move to approve.
Without modification?
Without modifications, I thought it was good.
Did too.
Second.
Okay.
I think we should talk about the period of time.
Yeah, so there are a couple questions I might have. I'll bring up discussion, I guess. The period of time we want to put it out for is one of those. Also, I think there's been some discussion over the best way to distribute it, as far as getting it in the hands of all interested parties or in front of anyone who might be interested. In a perfect world, we'd have a lot of options here. I mean, we know one looks like good developer, but we want everyone to get a crack at this, of course. What are your thoughts on the, I guess we'll say distribution first. Is this something we want to put out to actually advertise? Or, I mean, trade magazines? Jeff, have you done a little bit of work on this?
Well, minimally, we need to put notice in the paper. I think there's, while the Kansas statutes are very broad, enabling the city to sell property, I just think it makes good sense to do that, to cover ourselves for that standard, I guess, of public notification. So there's nothing harm or nothing wrong with doing that. I've prepared such a proposal for you to look at. Beyond that, obviously, we'd use other media sources that we have. I have become aware of several developers in Kansas and have spoke to a total of 3, all of whom are interested in receiving copies of the RFP. There would be opportunity within the period of time between when this process would begin, which I believe, since we are doing a advertisement in the paper, it should begin with publication of the newspaper, which is Wednesday, I believe, and the paper is prepared to put this in this week's edition. So the 30-day, or it might be 35 days, could officially begin that day or whatever period of time. So within that period would be opportunity to make other contacts, or I guess determine other means of distributing this. I didn't give a lot of thought to what publications, trade publications there might be out there. I'm sure there are a lot of them. We could go wide and far, probably scores of different publications. The question is, what are the chances of soliciting interest from any kind of a distance? I think one of the considerations here, and this came up in 2 conversations I had today with people that do this, is they like to do projects pretty close to where they are, because they like to be able to travel and be on site, and both pre-construction, during construction, and also during, the management phase later on. So that makes a lot of sense to me, and certainly takes a little bit of felt need to branch out and, just spew all over the country away, it would seem to me. But I don't really have a clear idea of where we would go beyond the companies that we are able to learn on our own exist in, I would say, a couple 100-mile radius of here.
So the other people you talked to, are they from the state of Kansas?
I was in contact with 3 additional companies in addition to the one that we had talked to prior, and they are all Kansas developers, yeah.
Does Kansas have any kind of platform that's available to that these companies can go to a website or a certain app or anything to look for proposals or anything like that?
I looked on the State Historic Preservation website and had conversations with staff people there, and they reviewed the proposal and all that kind of thing. And I wasn't made aware of any resources that they have. I think the fact that they know we have this and know we have it out and they have a copy gives them the ability to mention it to anyone that they might know that is looking for opportunities like this. Okay. And that may be true with others in some, related kind of business that may not do this themselves, but come into contact with those that might.
And as far as the time frame, I don't know if the council's thinking 30 days or if it makes more sense to do a little bit longer in a 60-day period. I'd be inclined to, I don't think you want to stretch it on forever, but I think you want to make sure you've got enough time for, if they find out about it in 3 weeks, they've got time to, submit as well. And I don't know if it colors it at all. There has been some concern that I've had some people reach out to me about whether we can dispose of the property however we see fit, or whether we are restricted based on some historical documentation. I've reviewed it. I kind of have opinions on it, but I definitely think it's something we need to fully vet with our council, whoever our council is, between now and then. And this, we can definitely proceed with this while vetting that and making sure, because as it's written, we can basically kill it for any reason we see fit. But
But didn't the one ordinance state after 50 years and we reached the 50 years?
well, there's.
Correct?
That's my reading of it, but I'm not an attorney, because it depends on whether you go by the 73 date or the 77 date. I mean, city staff, and I've reviewed this, I interpret it. Cindy, you want to speak to your interpretation?
Irregardless of the 50 years, all it says in there from day one after we received it, that we have the right to sell it, tear it down, do anything we want with it, if the council decides that it's not feasible. That is a caveat in that from the very beginning. So irregardless of the 50 years, and the 50 years was only, you had to tell the Kester family that you were gonna do it, so if they chose to want a say in where and how. And
It's kind of like a reversion agreement, and I mean, there have been some communications, with the Kester family. They are aware, at least, that we are proceeding with this and are following events, and my personal opinion is that there's some support there, for this, because they see it like we do, which is this is a way for us to save these buildings and do better than we can in any other way.
And you gotta remember too, that the Kester family reads the paper every week.
Yes, and they watch these meetings.
And they watch these meetings, and if the Kester family had a thorn about us doing anything, we would have been notified.
Yeah.
At this point.
The property was conveyed in two tracts, one in 72 and one in 77. And the one in 72 was,
the museum itself,
okay,
just the house.
so the commercial buildings were 77, but your belief is that it all rolled back to
Because
72?
it said the date of the first, when it was put in the book, in the Register of Deeds.
When it was
Which was
recorded.
January of 73.
So,
January 3rd or
at
something.
any rate, since there is some concern over this reading, I think it would make sense for us to get an actual legal opinion from our staff attorney.
Well, and if I might mention too that, as far as process here, the act of contacting the Kester family could occur anytime prior to entering into a development agreement.
Which is
as well,
really
which might actually be advantageous if it's the intent or the felt obligation of the council to make that intent. Wait until you have a proposal in front of you so you can share that.
Have something to contact them with, that this is the proposal, and then, agreed.
Speaking about this in a couple of meetings now, has there been any communications from any of the citizens, either way, that don't think it's a good idea or are excited
I've not heard
about it?
anything negative that called the city hall.
The only concerns I've heard were on the process, to make sure we were crossing Ts and dotting Is. The principle of the plan, no, I have not heard pushback. And I think that's partially because we have been very clear and thorough explaining how we're doing this and being very deliberative. I think that makes a difference, so.
Well, I just know there's always that chance someone doesn't watch these meetings or is on vacation,
Yeah,
or,
sure.
you know, and come back and say, whoa, wait a second, what's going on? So I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't any big
Right.
pushback from it.
As far as the timeline, for,
I do think it should be later than March.
Yeah, I think we need to go 60 days on it.
Yeah.
At least gives, if anybody else sees it or hears of it, later in one company to another company, they could have time to get an RFP here for it.
okay.
What is their process for, I mean, do they have to do all of their numbers and everything and submit it through this? I mean, certainly that's gotta take some
Yeah.
time to put all that information together and submit it, so.
Well, right, and to hear, and speaking with Tyler Holloman, it's not every single detail, but it's a pretty good explanation of the plan. And then, the way he termed it, I think is perfect, which is, then you're like in an engagement. And then you're negotiating the marriage after you've entered into that engagement, so.
I mean, I would say 60 days, I don't know if we wanna go any longer than that, cause anybody who's really interested in
Well, you're getting
this-
into some weird dates with 5 weeks in
Yeah.
April. So I'll amend my motion to May 1st,
May
to
1st.
change the date
Okay?
to May 1st.
Okay.
It's more than 60 days.
Yeah.
I know,
Which
but you're
hate to
getting
take
into
it out too
weird-
far 'cause of
Yeah, I
the-
don't know if
the-
I'd go
Because
that-
of
You're
the
getting into
problem with
weird, like, no,
preservation money and.
I don't know.
when that-
Yeah,
when that's a
I don't
lot-
know if I would go that long.
a lot of ways. April one?
I mean,
Well, from March 30th, or 20th, you go 6 weeks.
Well, it's from today, or
But are
You
we,
want it from today or the date on the
today.
RF?
Because it's
we
gonna
just,
go on.
I think we just
as I
edit that,
mentioned
we go
before,
from
it should
today.
be,
Right.
it should be, the date should be from
That's the day that I'm
Wednesday, which is the
extending.
publication
From
date.
date
for
of
this paper.
publication.
14.
Which would be Wednesday,
Yeah.
Technically, well, technically it's the
Thursday,
15th.
the 15th.
The date on the publication.
It's the fifth, it's 15th. It
It's
just comes
15th.
out on the 14th.
So
You
April,
could go April 4th or April 11th, that gets you quite a ways down the road.
We could do April, like,
17th.
I don't know. I like round numbers like 15th. It's easy for people to
People think
remember.
about it,
15th to the 15th, why not?
yeah. Yeah, April
Yep.
15th, that would make.
April
15th.
15th.
Okay?
That's fine, is that okay, Lori?
Perfect.
your
Yep,
motion?
whatever.
I'm just trying to get the motion right, sorry.
And
who's seconded?
logistically, they're gonna have to come look at the space, correct? To be able to do an RFP?
For sure.
Yeah.
So he'd have to agree.
Do you agree to that amendment?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be April 15th.
And when they do want to look at it, I don't know whom we will have giving tours, if that's.
It'll be us, one of us in here, and
Okay.
if you,
And
unless
and
you
I
want
was
to.
gonna say, unless you can't do it for some reason or have a lot going,
If
I
you
can help with
choose,
that as
yep.
well.
Okay.
The RFP specifies will do it, but whoever wants to do
Whoever,
it, may, but
yeah.
it was something that I thought was good to
Okay.
put in there.
That's good. Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There you go.
Carries. All right, last item under business and discussion is the request for extension of CDBG contract period for the Lagoon Wetland project.
Yes.
Move to approve the request for extension for the CDBG.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There you go.
Okay, thank you. All right, see no notices and hearings, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want removed from that? If not,
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
okay, so moved and approved to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There you go.
Thank you. Next, we have the presentation of appropriations ordinance number 3816.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3816, the amount of $751,589.05.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Roll call?
Snellings,
Yes.
Ferris. Yes. Barons,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Pikeman,
Yes.
Rom,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Guaraki,
Yes.
Ado.
Thank you. And Jeff, do you have anything you would like to share under your city administrator report?
Thank you. Let me start by mentioning that there is a little bit of format change to this agenda. You may have noticed one of the things is to put a city administrator report on the agenda, which is the opportunity for the city administrator to have some designated time to bring you up to date on some things or mention some things that might be pertinent. So I would encourage you to keep that on the agenda going forward. Standing committee reports, really, that is for the purpose of hearing reports from committees who have met. So it's probably not necessary to have those mentioned individually. Obviously, the spirit is the same, the opportunity is there if there are committee meetings that have taken place. And council comments is a much more common term that refers to the period in the meeting when council members are given the opportunity to share comments on things. the word discussion is a little bit concerning in the sense of it might suggest that items could come under discussion that should be on the agenda and disclosed on the agenda. So it's just kind of a, let's be a little careful here kind of a thing. Your agenda format, I believe, is in some kind of a policy of the council. So if you wanted to make any of these changes that you see here permanent, I think you'd have to amend that policy to do it.
The only thing is the words on council comments, because when it says city administrator report, book says staff report, and it specifically says in there that that staff report is from the city clerk and the city administrator if they have things to report to you. And then when you get down to the standing committee reports, does say if it was any committee that met is supposed to report.
Okay.
So that the policy does say those things, we just haven't been using them correctly. And at the bottom, it did say roundtable, but that is for anything that wasn't pretty much like what Jeff was saying.
Yeah, as is council comments, it's just that there tend to be more reporting on activities or things that are good for the council as a whole to know that maybe one council member attended a meeting or something like that, but not for items to come up and be discussed that might constitute city business items that maybe should have been disclosed, or maybe some preparation could have been made for them ahead of time. So with that having been said, we passed an amendment for an extension of the CDBG grant on the lagoon wetland project. Reminded me that the grant opportunity that we took advantage of to submit that came out of left field around Christmas time. Nothing's been heard yet, other than a great amount of money was requested. What, 137 million?
Or more. I mean, it was
somewhere around 150 million was requested of the $13 million pot. Now, we knew that was going to be the case.
We did.
Nonetheless, we're still waiting to hear, and keep your fingers crossed. Handicap spots on city streets, we had the discussion last meeting, and a little bit of research has been done since that time, and in fact, there would be required two spots to properly mark those, and there's 2 spots that are wider than the 8 feet width that we have there now. The total width required to put a handicap spot on Main Street is actually 20 feet. So what I'm saying is that your handicap spots on city streets are out of compliance with ADA. It's something I wanted to make you aware of. It wouldn't be a particularly easy fix, because to allocate the 2 spots that are really needed and hit that 20-foot width would require more than the width of 2 spots now, given how wide they're marked. So what I'm really saying is you'd have to go through and remark all of them. And that's a practical issue. I don't know how interested you are in that. The other thing, and maybe this is even more problematic, but you have a lot of handicap spots near the end spot, near the crosswalk, the intersection. You're not supposed to have a handicap spot within 20 feet of a crosswalk, which means all of those are out of compliance. So again, thinking ahead to the issue of if somebody was injured in one of those, there may be, some concern on the part of the city. So I mentioned that because the discussion that came up gave us the opportunity to look into those a little bit further. Just heads up, there may be something coming before you in the not too distant future with regard to a problem that's becoming a bigger problem, and that's vehicles on the Levee Road that are entering that road down there and going off-road and tearing up the area between the south part of the levee, where the road looking towards town in the south is, and the top of the levee. And that's a real no-no with the Corps. They get real upset about that. And of course, vehicles enter the other side of the road and go into, I haven't come up with a name for that area down there. no man's land. I don't know, there's,
The trail.
it looks like something out of a Western movie, you know, it really intrigues me, but, there are issues there. We've had a couple instances recently with appliances being taken down there and dumped and these kind of things. So I don't know what the answer to that is. It's an access road, but the question is access for whom and to where. Obviously, it's needed by the railroad on occasions, but as far as the general public, it only leads to one place, and that's that, Ferry Park, is it called? And the biggest problem as far as the off-road rutting and all that kind of thing is obviously during the months when things could be muddy down there, which I guess could be just about any month out of the year. So Dom may be coming before you to talk to you about that. I don't know if the city has liability for what goes on down there. We all know that ATVs and all-terrain vehicles and I don't know what else probably goes down there. But it would be possible for the city to restrict access, I guess, with the understanding of any other interests that need to use that road. And of course, the tricky thing for you would be to make a judgment on how much public access is needed for that road. Because to close it off would make it, obviously, the message would be it's not there for the public to travel, at least during the period that it was closed. Kester House sidewalk, the second house, I don't know, the restaurant house? The sidewalk in front of that is going to be replaced, at least the portion of it that needs replacement. Coming east from the western portion of the wall, there's several feet there that was replaced some years ago. It's not in bad shape, but the rest of it all the way out to the street is. There's several trippers there and so on and so forth. So that'll be replaced here in the next short while. The Nordis, how do you pronounce it? Nordis sewer repair is supposed to begin this week. I noticed that a backhoe was placed there this week, so Jadwin will be going in there and fixing that collapsed area. I think everybody knows that there's a effort underway to come up with a design and eventual project that'll address that and the broader area around it. But the timing of that is going to be such that at least one more rainy season will come and go. So the expectation for the amount of time it's going to take to fix that collapse is not great, 1 or 2 days. So, you know, maybe $2,000 to $5,000. I would guess everybody would believe it would make sense to go ahead and get that fix done while we're waiting to consider what else might happen. I did a little bit of work on capital funding. I won't mention any potential uses for it, but in visiting with Cindy about your sales tax money and its current allocation, currently it generates just under 1.1 million per year, 400,000 of which is transferred into the general fund for operational expenses because it's allowable for use for both operational and capital. I'm going back to my first meeting when I was having a coughing spell. I don't think I'm as nervous tonight as I was then. At any rate, that thing is authorized through 3031, which is another 8 years. So there's another 8 years of revenue stream there. I know that that fund has been used for other things as they sort of come up, small capital projects, street asphalt overlays,
mostly street.
Probably.
Mostly street and sidewalk.
Yeah, on an annual basis. Knowing there's some interest in a larger project and knowing there are other issues to work through before something like that could be done, I just want to point out it would be possible to effectively capitalize a portion of that remaining revenue stream, which is essentially what I'm saying is bond against it. Even though interest rates, private interest rates, in the private market have gone up considerably, we all know in the last couple of years, the municipal bond market is sitting right now at pretty much historical levels. Yeah, it was real low a couple years ago and 3 years ago, but that was an anomaly, as we all know. And it's probably gonna go down a little bit in the next couple of years, hopefully. But right now, the municipal GO bond rate for even a short-term issue is somewhere in the 3.5% range. So I just want to let you know that that potential revenue source is there. The biggest limitation to it is the length of time that sales tax remains, which is only another 8 years. There is about $1 million of capital in that fund that is in some ways undesignated, although the budget for 2024 does earmark it for a capital project, although it doesn't say what capital project. So I'm thinking that the practice might have been to appropriate all of what was in reserve and all of the projected revenue on an annual basis, but that doesn't mean that you always spent that much. So $1 million accumulation in there right now is fairly significant and could be a good starting point for a large project as far as having some cash on hand to pair with some debt financing and also be able to, I guess, say that you had a blend of short-term financing, or in this case cash, and longer-term financing. Although, again, you could only bond for as long as that issue remains, which would be a maximum of 8 years. So just wanted to bring that forward for your general awareness as you approach budget season here in the not-too-distant future. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. That's great. Kind of to Jeff's point about the little bit of change on the agenda, understanding committee reports. The only committee I know that's met since the last meeting was the Police and Fire Committee. I think we kind of already covered what was discussed there tonight. Have there been any other committee meetings since then?
Just out of curiosity, how is Jadwin doing on our water project?
I'm glad you asked, and I meant to put that down. The system, they attempted to pressurize the system last week and found out they had some troubleshooting to do. Okay. So I talked to the foreman mid-afternoon today, and they had isolated and closed all those off. So they were in the process of wrapping that stage up. And the tie-ins are, where are we at on that?
He had told me as soon as, he thought he was gonna do the cut-in now.
So it should.
So it's gonna follow, that'll be like the week later or whatever, as long as the weather holds, to do the services along Elm.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's what he said. And that does come out of sales tax?
I think all of the trenches are now closed or in the process of being closed. And I imagine the last thing that's gonna happen is putting, the streets back in order. The potholes were all concreted, put sand and concrete, so they just require the brick on top. But of course, the big excavations, all that has to be done. I'm not so sure on the 8th and Elm excavation, if maybe a portion of that concrete radius area might not have to be repoured. I looked at it briefly, actually after work today, but they're getting closer. It's taken longer than I think we all wish it would have, but it got off to such a good start in November. We're all happy that the weather was good, but this stage of it, unfortunately, has taken longer than expected.
Okay. All right. Next, we will move to the appointments and wage determination. First, for the Marysville Public Library Board, appointing Dexter Spitznagel for April 2024 through April 2025 to replace the term of Pat Schramm, who has resigned. I'm also appointing Jamie Anderson, April 2024 through April 2028, to replace Sally Oliver, whose term has expired.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I be recognized?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Is it germane to this, I suppose?
It does, and I looked back and I made Mandy Cook, Marysville Public Library Director, I made a mistake in my letter to Cindy and yourself. Dexter actually should take effect right away, because, yes, and it was
Okay.
just, and I was like, I looked at it and I was like, oh dear,
I
so I
thought
went
there
back
were-
in my letter and it was totally
I
my
thought there were
fault.
reasons or something.
Nope,
Okay.
that was my bad. So, no, the other one is perfectly fine, for
Go
the
to
May.
February.
Yes, so, thank you, continue. I appreciate your time.
All right, well, I amend my appointment.
Move to approve mayor's appointment.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
So are you gonna do?
I'm gonna do the other one separately, since that's a separate discussion. All right, any further discussion on these appointments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Which one, who seconded that? Lori did, okay, I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay, my other appointments, I was informed today that we knew we were kind of short-term on a city attorney, because John's leaving us to go, be a magistrate judge. But that came kind of suddenly today, so that's why this is late addition to the agenda. I've been talking to John, like to reappoint him to the role of city judge. He can maintain that role in addition to his magistrate judge role he's taking on in Clay and Riley counties. I think he's performed well as our city judge, so that's my first nomination. Or first appointment, I should say. I'd also like to appoint, as our new city attorney and city prosecutor, both Aaron Westbrook. Aaron Westbrook used to work for GWB here in town. He moved to Manhattan to practice there. I've been in communication with him. He has been the city attorney of several other cities. Most similar in size in the area is Belleville. He does some officing in Clay Center. I believe he also will share some officing here in Marysville. So he's familiar with the community. He did live here until somewhat recently. Like I said, he's got some real estate experience, real estate law, along with city experience, which obviously we're discussing real estate matters these days. So I thought that might be important to have as well. So that he's
gonna practice out of a Marysville office, so because it has to be an adjoining county, that's what I'm asking you.
That's my understanding.
Okay,
I will
because-
absolutely confirm.
Right, because that's why Libby couldn't do it, because when she moved to Clay County, it doesn't abut Marshall.
Even on a corner doesn't count.
I don't know, that's what they said. I don't know, I just wanna make sure we're okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get in the legal definition of adjoining too,
Yeah, and
real
I don't
quick.
care, I just wanna make sure we're legal.
Okay.
in McNish's office.
Yes,
But if he's gonna work in McNish's office, we're good.
He is
Yeah.
sharing office
Okay,
space with
then we're
John
good.
McNish.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's what I heard. Long as,
Yes,
Marshall County works.
yeah. Yeah, it ought to.
Yeah.
So that's my second appointment. So
So he is gonna be prosecutor, and
Prosecutor.
Loman is not going to do it anymore.
correct. That'd be my appointment.
Okay.
Move to approve this mayor's appointment on the city judge and city attorney.
Second.
Okay. I have also received, a kind of a nominal, shared with me a fee schedule. I didn't share that before, but we should expect the fee schedule to remain the same as we've been paying now.
Is Aaron the one that John was talking about was?
Yes, yeah,
apprenticing?
and this is part of the conversation I've had, is that to make sure that there's a little bit of continuity as far as information, historical information on things that we've done, and so that communication should kind of transfer a little bit if there's questions. That should be helpful, I hope, to us as well. So is there any further discussion on the appointments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
8-0.
All right, thank you. Speaking of which, we have no city attorney tonight. Is there anyone who sees need for executive session? thing I could think we might want to discuss is, non-elected personnel, but if nobody sees need, I'm not gonna call for it. Okay.
I think we need to call an executive session for non-elected personnel. To include the council, mayor, and
City administrator?
city administrator.
Interim city administrator.
Interim city administrator.
For how long?
I think 5 minutes is plenty.
I move the city council recess in executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel, discussion of specific personnel matters, not general personnel policy, exception KSA 75-4319, section B. 1, this session will include mayor, city council members, city administrator. The open meeting will resume the city council at 8:10.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. 5:20. The door's open this way.
Go ahead.
Go, I'm waiting. Waiting on you.
Huh? Kitchen cabinet.
Cindy, has that always been the case that it's the mayor's appointment and the attorney?
With the approval of council. The council can say no.
Okay, so you don't advertise?
Oh, no.
Okay. And
They never have usually. Because there's so few attorneys, they're on it. I mean, they didn't want John asked to be done. They didn't see eye to eye with that man. It was a nightmare. Because the attorneys are not happy to put that guy in. And he charged us money plus travel. I mean, we paid him tons of money.
I didn't realize that was the.
It's hard, but it's always been an important position. Yeah. Most of you have a lot. I mean, now we don't because Jason was in the county and that's an elected position, right? No, that is right. That's what this thing is. That's what the other. But you can't do both because if it has to go to the next court, we talked about that one. you have any options.
Well,
And then there's no butter in the county that had any renters except for like the guy that was doing, Brown, he's actually from Brown, which is not a progress.
right.
I mean,
Well,
Libby did a great job. We loved her as a prosecutor, but then she moved to Clay Center. That messed up.
oh, I
Because
thought
she used to live in Washington County.
oh, I thought they lived in Palmer.
I don't know, that's what she asked to get done. She did the prosecuting, and she was really good at it, but unless she took on Clay Center too, and then didn't, that it wouldn't. I don't know what John does down there. He does, he's a judge and he does something. He has an office in Clay Center, which I didn't even realize. And this all came up, when I was calling.
Has he said an end date yet?
No, all we knew was with you, he was the last meeting when he said it. That's all I know. But I'm wondering if he could talk to him. Because all of a sudden Todd brought this today. We could have put it on. I'm wondering if we did it too late. John said, okay, now I know the date they want to install it. See, that's what he was going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get out of your way. Get behind me.
I was trying to race.
Yeah, it was 8:10 we came. Okay, we are returning from executive session.
I think you should.
So we're gonna have to be moving forward without an interim city administrator in the seat full-time. So we're probably need to look at some options as far as helping cover until we have the new candidate in place. But we do appreciate all the work that Jeff has done and all the things he's been helping us with, and I think we're going to probably keep communication open as far as if we can move forward on a contractual basis, kind of more of a consulting role. We're all going to have to pick up some slack, but we appreciate that we're going to be able to keep having Jeff on the team to help keep the process moving forward with this new candidate as well. Okay. I guess we'll move to council comments. So I guess we can kind of keep the old school roundtable format. Lori, do you have any comments?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Eric and Sandy Wilson's yard.
They've already talked to us.
Okay, and that's getting taken care of? Because somebody was supposed to go talk to them, maybe, or the street department or something?
No.
Nobody been up there?
No. We have to wait till it's time. First of all, we had to wait for the snow to melt to see it. And we'll see about getting the rut out of their yard. It's very tricky. We had a couple people, it's really hard to push snow and then not be able to see where you are. And then have to put it, it's hard to go curb to curb and not hit so, yes, we do know, we're aware of it, we have tickets written of where we have to go back. Yep.
Okay, and I will not be here next meeting. That's all I got.
Sherry, do you have any?
I have,
comments?
citizens that complained about something that was brought up one other time is the Jake breaks coming down 36th Street. There is a sign saying it's enforced. it's not being enforced. Once you get up by the old Hardys, you should be slow enough to not use your Jake brakes. I mean, I drove a truck in Colorado, you didn't have to use your Jake brakes as much as they do in town here. And they're very unhappy with it and have called Topeka and.
I've heard some comments as well. I don't know if the street committee's gonna be meeting anytime in the near future. Is it under police? Well, okay, so the reason I bring it up under street is one of the suggestions that was brought forth to me is some signage changes.
Yeah,
Which
we can do
would
through here.
fall, yeah.
We can do that through just staff.
So maybe that would be a conversation for police and fire to have then, is if signage is something that might be beneficial. Because to your point about, I mean, yes, signs can inform, but people have to follow the rules to the signs.
And if they're not from around here, they may not know that sudden slope that goes down.
And that was what one of these people who was a retired trucker had said,
Yeah.
was that maybe if we had a little more information, because if somebody's in Casey's or whatever, a truck, and they head west and they're not familiar, they get kind of, for lack of a better term, scared.
But 30 miles an hour, you shouldn't have to use Jake brakes,
Yeah.
ever.
No, I agree. As somebody
Except
who
for
lives
the
along the
sound,
highway.
you like the sound of them.
Oh, well, not too many people like the sound of exhaust, but. Okay, I guess we'll put that on the list of something that, yeah.
But is that gonna be a problem with us going around saying there's too many signs? You know?
Well, there's such a thing as sign pollution,
Yeah, I
so,
know.
I mean, I don't know if this is one of those, there's an existing sign up there, maybe we replace it, maybe there's a
Yeah.
better sign.
Well, it has a little sign right down below it, and
Yeah.
I don't know what that sign was, I didn't look at that. But it could distract you from seeing it.
Yeah, Jeff?
I had a brief conversation with the chief a couple weeks ago about noisy vehicles in general, which I tend to hear a lot of them where I've been living.
There are a lot.
And he mentioned somewhat in passing, because it wasn't intended to be a long conversation, that there is some problem with the means where Jake brake enforcement is concerned. So my suggestion would be have the chief come to the next meeting and share with you what his issues are with it, if I understood him correctly. Because there may be something there that signage isn't the biggest problem.
Well, I've had conversations with the chief as well, I mean, on non-heavy truck noise, as far as revving engines and people who just like.
Red car with no hood?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that one.
So, and I think there's probably a couple things that, and from my talking to the PD, I mean, some tightening up some of our rules to make them more enforceable, and some education. I mean, I don't think we need to go out and just hit some of these, especially some of these kids who may not understand the ramifications first thing, but educate, and then where you have to, you can lay the law down. But I think it's gonna be a combination of tactics, but I definitely think this is something we can work with the PD to help remedy.
Is that something that would be in an already affected noise ordinance that we have?
There are, but the way it's worded, there's a certain amount of, it can be open to interpretation.
So we need to
So I think it can be tightened up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Pauline, did you have any comments?
I had a conversation with somebody earlier tonight, they called me, complaining about our, friend, Mr. Milarnik, and that, I'd asked Cindy where we were in that process, because I know he was specifically said he was going to fight the condemnation.
Appeal it in district court?
Yeah.
And that never happened. He had to do that within a certain number of days, and he did not get that done.
But
It was filed, I did have to take the paperwork to the district court.
And he is continuing to burn, and that was one of their biggest concerns, was that there's stuff all over their yard from him burning. And so I went down by before I came, and yes, it was coming out of a barrel and he was burning.
What's that address over there, Colin? Any idea?
207. 5 or 7.
Calhoun.
Calhoun.
Middle of the block.
Calhoun,
You'll
yeah.
see it right away when you drive past.
And I hadn't been by there for a while, and I see he did put up a fence on the one side. So you can't see it as you're coming from the west. But, the fence isn't on the other side. And they, were complaining that somebody has got a van and they're hauling in all kinds of stuff again. So,
Okay, so it just needs to go forward. That means that we'll have to get bids to take it down.
yeah. So,
So it's been condemned.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he didn't get it appealed in the due time, so.
Yeah, we've received no paperwork. They asked me to bring up our paperwork, which I did do to the district court, but I've never heard
So
anything since then.
legally,
We can take it down.
Probably needs to be another agenda item for the next meeting.
Okay, okay. And I'll double check with the district court just to make sure they haven't informed us yet.
that's all I have.
Jeff, do you have
I have nothing.
Keith?
I talked to the fire chief, and he told me that one of the pumper truck's transmissions went out, so that's coming down the pipeline, so I don't know how far they are in getting bids on to replace that or what they're gonna do.
They're looking for parts, and we can't have a bid till they know if they can find them, because the truck is 20 years old.
I was gonna ask which truck it was.
It's 602, I think it is.
Yep.
And so we're waiting on Danco, that's where it is, because that's who fixed it before. And it's the very same thing that happened not very long ago.
On the same truck.
And so, but until they find the parts to know that they can get them, we can't have a true bid.
The way I feel about it, if it's gonna cost more than what the truck's worth,
Well,
they expand the search on a different truck. That's just the way I feel.
well, and they can, a new truck is probably 600,000 and this repair is probably 30,000. So if you take a $600,000 truck and divide it by 20 years,
Well,
it's
you don't have- you don't-
$30,000.
I'm not
so-
saying a new truck, I mean,
That's a used truck.
okay.
Yeah, new trucks.
Surprisingly
New truck's over $1
expensive.
million. Yeah. Yeah. For a pumper? Yeah. But we'll let you know as soon as we know, because it has to come through you guys, because it's so much money.
What one is it? What number?
602, I think.
602.
It's a pumper.
1985,
Yeah.
Wow.
1,000-gallon pumper.
That's it.
Anything else, Keith?
Nope.
Kevin?
Yeah, because, Mr. Simpson brought it up there on our ordinance on our snow removal, our emergency snow routes and stuff. We gonna purchase new signs? Or how are we going to enforce this now? According to him, he can't enforce it the way the policy is written.
I thought we were getting new signs.
What we did was
Are
send
we
a
gonna change it to
memo.
3 inches, 2 inches? What are we gonna put for minimum depth, et cetera, et cetera?
Would you like an ordinance prepared and brought forward along the lines of what that memo was aimed at?
Yeah,
Be a good idea.
just so we can get it taken care of, so we can get vehicles removed for parking and.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, to be able to say on that sign what's expected of people.
Well, I know.
is Very important.
That's why I was,
Can't follow the rules if they don't know what they are.
yeah,
And those signs are pretty cheap because that's what they all read. 2 inches is the more common depth. I don't know where you're gonna wanna be on that, but you can go 3. I mean, that's up to you.
I just threw some numbers out, I don't care what we put on it,
Consistent.
but, you know, he said he couldn't enforce it, and I thought, well, what good's having an ordinance if you can't enforce it?
Right.
Cause, you know, like Gary said, cleaning around cars ain't no fun either. So,
Anything else, Kevin?
that's all I have, sir.
Chris?
Oh, I just have one thing. I think we need to put back on the agenda for next meeting that, tornado siren. I've had discussions with people and done some research, and I think we'd be doing a disservice by not doing something about it. Or if we're not getting part of the community notified and, something happens, I don't know what the legal ramifications would be, but I think everybody deserves a chance to be notified with it. So I would like to bring it back up on the agenda.
Okay.
That's all I
For reconsideration of
have.
the
Yes, for
prior,
reconsideration.
you can do that anytime.
I was
could
gonna
do
say, you
that
don't even
now
have
if
to
you
put it on
wanted
the
to.
agenda. You could just move to reconsider it now.
Okay, well, I move that we at least discuss it and reconsider it if everybody has time to do it now. If not, we can put it on the agenda for next week.
Jeff, you have comments?
Yeah, you voted against purchasing it, right?
I did.
Okay, so it has to be a member that voted against purchasing that makes this motion. If this motion were to be seconded and passed, then you could re-vote on the exact motion that was on the last agenda.
Right. This is just to bring it back to reconsider it.
Okay.
You're asking it to.
So
be
I
reconsidered,
move
so
that
we need
we
a second.
bring the storm siren back up for reconsideration.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it. Let's talk about it.
I would like Chris, since you moved to bring it back, you can talk about it at length. I guess I did a little more study on it after that. I was remiss in understanding of some of our coverage and maybe how much we needed it.
I just know by talking with a few people and looking at the map and stuff, I know that when these when these sirens are put together, I mean, they cover certain areas, and we're leaving out a pretty important part of the area coverage to notify people. And if we're leaving people at, we're in Tornado Alley here.
I should probably have a vote. I kind of just went to town there, but,
Yeah.
so there's been a motion and a second
Oh,
to
sorry, yeah.
bring it to reconsider the motion on the storm siren. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we can talk about it. Sorry, Chris, now go ahead.
I mean, but the more I thought about it, if I was living in this area and didn't get notified, and my wife and kids are toppled by the house because we weren't able to get away in time, I don't know, I just felt really uneasy about it, and I know if it was brought to vote again, I would definitely do it.
Was that,
I think it's pretty important to the.
is that the $45,000 bid?
Mm-hmm.
It was about
45,000.
Should be in the minutes.
Yeah.
When Will explained that it was, the one that was out there is an old one that was taken from someplace else.
Yeah, it was moved to there.
Yes.
And one of the big reasons I voted no is just with the discussion with the departments and stuff, they made it sound like it had been broken for 6 years, and so at the time, I should have done more research before I voted on it anyway, and I'll just bring that out. But I think everybody deserves to have the opportunity to be safe in these times, in storm.
And the amount was $43,746.75.
And that was only one bid, research for one bid, right?
That's who does all of ours.
That's who all does.
There's
Oh, that's
no-
how
there's-
who all
yeah,
does.
Right, that's,
No other company does.
that's,
They do all of ours.
Blue Valley
sirens.
Siren or whatever, they all coordinate together through our computer.
Like I said, and I don't know if there's any legal ramifications to something happening, and we weren't allowing that to be heard. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any information on legal responsibilities of that as far as?
Well, I guess the thing that would concern me there is that it's part of a system that's set up with, coverage areas. And the standard there is 70 decibels at so many feet. So I think you need to be consistent within that whole area to provide equitable, even coverage. And I think the reading, after they plugged that thing back in and got it, was 20 or something
Yeah,
like
or
that. So
low.
it's about a third or less of what
Because
the
it doesn't have the
standard
blow
is. So
thing.
in the event somebody didn't hear it, I think the city would have a problem.
Since we're aware of the problem.
And the more I thought about it, I'm an electrician, so I do lighting all the time. Lighting has, coverages, you have a dark spot. So when I thought about it that way, it just made more sense to me that we should probably revisit this.
There are no grants for something like this, is there? I mean, there's nothing out there that can help.
There can be, but if we did it, it would be next year. I think there might be one that emergency management knows about. I don't know that, if you want to wait a year, I don't know now that we've exposed this, if that's a grand
Well, and
idea,
now-
but.
Leading right into the storms.
Storm season's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
So,
around the
Lee, do
bend.
you have the budget book? Do you have, what did we budget?
It was budgeted,
What did we budget? What was the amount we
I
budgeted
think
for that?
43,000, but, yeah, you should
Darn
look for
close.
sure. It'd be in safety,
It's in what?
118, I think,
That's what I was trying to figure out. 19, 14,
And I get it, I understand that we have a lot of issues in the city that we need to fix, roads and
118.
everything else. So I know we're trying to pinch pennies where we can, but I just don't think this is the place where we should do that. Sorry about my voice, I was yelling at the chief's office.
Is it at the right spot?
according to those.
According to the plan that was laid
Yeah.
out.
Does it say according to circles?
I think that's why they moved it, but I don't know that
Where?
answer. It should be at the bottom, somewhere saying capital improvement, capital
That's what I was trying to
outlay.
figure out.
It's in there, I just don't remember, it's 43 or 45, I thought it was.
Yeah, I can't find. Have to look at
Here,
it.
you wanna find it? Sure.
It was actually budgeted.
It's health and safety, I know. Here we go, forest. Health and safety is 108, not 118, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's why I couldn't
Yeah,
find
no,
it.
you can, ambulance. Storm sirens, 45 is
Oh,
what we
so
put
it's
in.
under.
So it's within the.
Under what we
Under the
budgeted.
budget
Yeah,
number.
it's a little under.
It's under the budget amount.
Right, I mean, so that, because sometimes we have to put in new batteries and stuff, I mean,
Right.
in the other ones, the existing ones, so.
So what's the council wanna do?
I'll make a motion to, move forward with the purchase of a new storm siren at the Keystone, addition.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move forward with the storm siren purchase. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ada,
8-0.
you can give that back to Colleen. We might need that.
Anything else, Chris?
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I have nothing, I won't be here next meeting either, but that's all I have.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I have one other thing.
yeah.
I noticed it on the way up and forgot to write it down. The lights on Broadway from 7th to 6th, how long are they gonna be out?
The new ones we're putting in?
All of them's out. No,
The sidewalk?
Both blocks
everything's
are
out. From 7th Street to
The
5th
600
Street
On Broadway?
on Broadway.
500, 600 blocks.
I think that's because they had that,
Been doing a lot of digging over there.
They've been out for quite a while.
I thought maybe while they were putting in the new lights, they had the whole thing
Mhm.
shut off until they
Thinking
were
they do.
in.
Well, they've been off for probably a good week before they even
because
installed
that,
the new
well,
lights.
okay. When they took the concrete out for the sidewalk that has to be replaced, the conduit was buried in the concrete.
Okay, so they pulled it,
Yeah,
okay. Okay,
so that,
that's probably why.
and we wanna pour that concrete this week,
Well, it's nice.
Well, it's good.
except for we're having a hard time getting concrete, but we're fixing the conduit.
Okay. Like I said, I was just curious, cause it was,
Yeah.
it worked, and then they
Yeah.
were out, all except the two new ones.
That and I think there
seen
was
those were up.
sprinkler water in that one piece of concrete too, that they ran the sprinkler right through there too.
Okay,
Nice.
like I said, just curious.
The only thing I had is I wanted to announce we do have the city administrator candidate meet and greet scheduled from 4:30 to 6 at the Art Center on the 28th. That's 4:30 to 6 at the Art Center on the 28th. We're going to be doing interviews the following day with our candidates we're bringing in. That's the 29th. We have 3 candidates that we're bringing in, but we will release the names, a little bit of basic bio stuff ahead of those interviews. Planning to release that on the 27th, Tuesday the 27th.
Is that going in the paper or?
Yeah, we'll make sure it gets in the paper.
The,
4:30 to 6:30?
4:30 to 6.
And that's for just all the general public.
And that's, yeah, so,
And that's
anybody who's out there listening wants to come and
You want us there too?
Yeah, the Arts
it'd be
Center.
great, if you wanna swing by and say hi, you'll get a chance to talk to them the next day at interviews, of course, but it's a good opportunity for them to kind of meet some of the community and the community to get to see them as well, make a good impression, hopefully.
I think it would be good to, I hope a lot of the community shows up so we can get feedback from them
sure.
on what they think about them and.
Did we get people to tour them, take them down?
that's one logistic that has not been
We have-
finalized. We've, approached a couple people that were not available, so if anybody has anybody in mind, in addition to, I think y'all know who we might have talked to before, let us know.
To give tours, I mean.
To the
Yeah, there were
candidates.
2 slots. I think they're gonna take 2 in one slot and 1 in the other, so it's just 2, like 1-hour slots. I wanna mention also on the second day, there will be a lunch, that you're all invited to. It'll just be the candidates and the council and the department heads. Nice break of the day. It'll be very informal, but that'll be on your schedule, and you'll get your final schedule tomorrow for the second day, Thursday, 29th. There will be a special, the day will end with a special city council meeting. I believe it's scheduled for 4 o'clock that day, but we, of course, haven't notified the press yet.
I haven't sent any call. I haven't sent any
Sort
call
of
out
just
yet.
did, but
Okay.
I didn't have a time
29th.
on the time, yeah, on the 29th, but I
It's
didn't have a time.
all day, but
yeah, you get started, I think, 8:30 or 9 in the morning, and there'll be a little time, I think, before, no, there really won't be much time, so, yeah, figure all day through however long the council meeting at 4 will take, which I imagine at least an hour, probably more.
an hour break for lunch, or how you kind of,
Yeah.
So the candidate interviews are specifically on which day?
Thursday.
29th.
Thursday, yeah, there's nothing on Wednesday really if you, yeah, that's just a come and
Okay.
go for the public.
Okay. That's what I wondered.
Okay, that's all I had.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned.
That seems to be harder than bringing it home.
Well, have fun at Costa Rica.